everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to take a look back at the spectacular war combat movie Black Hawk Down and find out where it truly ranks within the pantheon of great war films. Released on December the 28th, 2001, it has a high prolific cast starring Josh Hartnett, Eric Bana, Jason Isaacs, Ewan McGregor, Orlando Bloom and Tom Sizemore, and it was directed by acclaimed director Ridley Scott. Now, Black Hawk Down is set within the early 90s and a civil war of militia within the African nation of Somalia. The United Nations initiate a military intervention to provide relief, food and supplies and safe passage for the civilians trapped within the warfare. However, the peacekeeping forces are constantly ambushed by the rebel groups led by Mohammed Farah Adid. In retaliation, a US battalion of soldiers are assigned to the highly dangerous zone within Mogadishu to capture and apprehend the rebel general. What follows is an unrelenting struggle for survival as the US soldiers come under a furious assault from the militia. As they find themselves trapped and surrounded, they must repel the forces until reinforcements arrive and take them into the safe zone. Now, when looking back on Black Hawk Down, in terms of a pure spectacle, it just might be the best ever visualization of war ever put on screen. It's an absolute assault on the senses, an exhilarating mix of action, hyper-violence, kinetic energy and vibrant colours, but this isn't the fantastical imagery of what we saw within Apocalypse Now. This is a far more of a realistic visual recreation. It's brutal, it's unsentimental, and it pulls no punches, and it makes for a truly thrilling and immersive experience that absolutely holds up still watching it today. Now, as with all war movies, it begins by establishing the location and the environment, the strategy and the tactics and the battle plans, and introducing all of the soldiers. We see a whole host of well-known actors with typical American accents and some British actors with some not so typical accents. And we get the cliche banter and supposed camaraderie between them, but to be honest, you don't really get any attempts at character depth or backstory, and some may find the movie a bit slow or disengaging because it doesn't really define any clear or central protagonist to help guide you through the story. But of course, this is all irrelevant once we get into the warfare, and when we do, the film firmly puts its foot on the accelerator and it doesn't let up. The pacing and intensity is just constant for the rest of the film, with set piece after set piece. We have an endless barrage of shootouts and missile and projectiles being fired and helicopter crashes. We see soldiers constantly ambushed in the open, running for cover within alleyways and corners, physically being pushed to their absolute limits. Now, what Ridley Scott did so well is to keep mixing up the locations and combat areas. So we see the battle both in the day and the night time, at times amidst the heavy smoke as the soldiers are making their landing for the first initial entry. We do of course get nighttime scenes where we see POV shots of targeting and night vision. And yes, the movie is very much of a live action Call of Duty, and I'm sure all fans of that game franchise will absolutely adore this movie. But as mentioned before, the action is measured enough so that we do get pauses in between to catch your breath, to catch up with the characters and set up the tension for each particular sequence. And under Scott's direction, that's absolutely key in preventing the movie from just becoming mindless violence. It also doesn't hold back in the fatalities, which can be quite gruesome at times as we see limbs and organs being splattered and blown apart. It's really not for the faint-hearted, and perhaps in a way, the lack of characterization actually helps maintain the tension, as anybody can be taken out at any time. Nobody really feels safe. And really, that's the whole point in terms of the war and the danger and the hazards that these soldiers are constantly coming under. And it's this element that Black Hawk Down really gets it right, and this is really what keeps you immersed for most of the movie. Now, admittedly, you do eventually feel the strain after the constant violence, and probably the film's biggest weakness is that there's very little context or reflection, there's very little commentary or emotional substance here. The movie is just a pure visual experience, and that probably is what stops Black Hawk Down from being a completely great war film to stand alongside the likes of Platoon or Saving Private Ryan. And once the combat stops at the end of the film, you're kind of left with an empty feeling. Again, the lack of characterization is probably a large reason for this. And when you consider the actors here, who are all very talented and quality performers, it is a bit of a waste that we don't really get any stronger character work to go alongside all of the carnage. The only personality of any real presence is Eric Bana as Norm Hoot Gibson. He's the straight talking lone wolf. He gets all of the badass scenes, and many fans of the film have pointed out his final scene where he talks about people not understanding the war, how he's being called a war junkie, and how it's about the man next to you. But when we look at this character, in a way, he is a war junkie. He provides very little introspection about what he's doing. He very much goes rogue a lot of the time, and whilst he's constantly giving advice to Josh Hartnett on how to handle his platoon, I really don't see enough perspective with this character. He's really more just about the fighting rather than asking why they're fighting or whether they're actually making a difference. And for me, the truly great war films ask these questions. They don't give easy answers, but they do provide context and pause for thought. There's much more of a thematic weight and substance about the conflict, and for all of its visual flair and style, this is something that Black Hawk Down sadly lacks. So we go on to the release of the movie, and the movie was somewhat of a success, grossing over $173 million of a considerable $93 million budget. It did receive a lot of praise for its scale and production and depiction of war, and overall won 2 Oscars for the best sound and best editing, which I think overall are very well deserved. And overall, Black Hawk Down, whilst lacking the human and emotional elements that we see in other great war films, it's still on a technical and cinematic level perhaps the best visualization of war that we've seen yet on the big screen, and that's something that still remains to this day, many years after its overall release. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings and reflection on Black Hawk Down. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Where do you think it ranks amongst the truly great war movies? Do you have it right at the top, or do you think it's something of a step down in terms of movies previous or what we've seen currently today? Also, let me know if you'd like to see me review other war films within the channel, and if you have any other suggestions regarding any other movies or television series or any other issues within the entertainment industry that you'd like to see me cover, then also drop me a suggestion and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on those topics within the future. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very soon.